نرحب بكم ونرجو منكم أن نستفيد. بارك الله فيكم والله يجزيكم لهذه الفعالة ولهذه المشاركة. شكرا جزيلا. يا بروفيسور.
شكرا. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه أجمعين. A very warm welcome to all the scholars and all the participants in this international webinar. This webinar is organized by Department of Arabic, Kaliachak College, Malda, in collaboration with the Calcutta University Arabic Students and Alumni Association on the occasion of World Arabic Day. We have scholars with us today. We have Professor Amit Dey from Calcutta University, Professor Dr. Muhammad Sanaullah Nadvi, a renowned scholar from Aligarh Muslim University. Our speakers will be today from the college and university. Professor Muhammad Isharat Ali Mullah, Patron-in-Chief of this Alumni Association. He will be there today. Dr. Nazibur Rahman, Principal, Kaliatchak College, Malda, will be there. Dr. Mustafa Jamal and Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin, University of Rajshahi, Bangladesh. He is present. We are fortunate to have these great scholars today with us. We will hear from them. And with the permission of Patron-in-Chief, I want to start today's program. First of all, I'll invite Mr. Muhammad Munsif Ali Rizvi to recite some verses from the Holy Quran. Mr. Muhammad Munsif Ali Rizvi.
Yeah, actually, today's program under the presidentship or under the chair of Professor Nizamuddin. So I welcome him. Yeah.
Yes. President of the academic session, Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin. A warm welcome to him. Muhammad Munsif Ali Rizvi, please recite some verses from the Holy Quran. I will request. I think there is some connectivity problem.
No. Professor Munsif, please unmute your device.
Hello.
Yeah, we are hearing you.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Wa alaikum assalam.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والسماء ذات البروج واليوم الموعود وشاهد ومشهود قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد صدق الله العظيم. وبلغنا رسوله النبي الكريم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله. Thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Munsif Ali Rizvi. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Now, I will request our one of the most active member of Alumni Association, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Wahab, to introduce President of the academic session, Janab Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin. Abdul Wahab, please introduce Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin.
Mr. Abdullah, unmute. Unmute your device.
Yes, sir.
Please introduce yourself. Today's
Yes, sir.
chairman.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honorable Director of this international webinar, Isharat Alimullah, most respected President, respected guests, eminent speakers, ladies and gentlemen, wish you a very good afternoon. It is great pleasure for me to introduce the President of this academic session. Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin is a famous personality in the field of Arabic language and literature. He completed his graduation and master degree from Rajshahi University He got his PhD from the same university on the topic of Dirasatun ala Sha'r al-Islami fil Ahd al-Nabawi. He is the author of the 6 books. He also published more than 25 articles in various magazines in Bangladesh and abroad. Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, he has been teaching since 25 years at Rajshahi University. Now he is the chairman of the Department of Arabic, University of Rajshahi, Bangladesh. He gives lectures and speeches on many Bengali and Arabic TV channels inside and outside the country. Now I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin. Please welcome, sir. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, sir.
Now I would like to request Professor Nizamuddin, please deliver your presidential address.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين وبعد. Eminent scholars, honorable guests, honorable teachers, researchers, students, ladies and gentlemen, firstly accept my salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. It is great pleasure indeed for me to join with you all in the second academic session of the international webinar on Arabic and Bengali literature, aspects of interaction in modern times, organized by the Department of Arabic, Kaliatchek College, Malda, in collaboration with Calcutta University Arabic Students and Alumni Association on the occasion of World Arabic Language Day. I am very much happy and grateful that many distinguished scholars and teachers have come from different countries to share their knowledge. I would like to express my deep appreciation for Professor Dr. Sanaullah Nadvi, Department of Arabic, Aligarh Muslim University, Professor Amit Dey, Department of History, University of Calcutta, Dr. Najibur Rahman, Principal, Kaliatchek College, Malda, Dr. Subrata Kumar Das, Coordinator, Institutional Quality Assurance Cell, Kaliatchek College, Malda, Professor Dr. M. Isharat Ali Mullah, Department of Arabic and Persian, Calcutta University, and Patron-in-Chief, Calcutta University Arabic Students and Alumni Association. Honorable audience, topic of this academic session is Arabic and Bengali literature, aspect of interaction in modern times. We know Bangla Arabic lingua literary exchange has a significant historical development. This exchange began with the arrival of Arab merchants and Sufi saints to this area, and it developed by the patronization of Muslim rulers. It is notable that many Arabic words exist in Bengali language, literature, and culture. We find a lot of Arabic words in the literary works of Qazi Nazrul Islam, Mir Musharraf Hussain, poet Ghulam Mustafa, poet Shahadat Hussain, and other poets and literatures. Many Arab writers are also influenced by the Bengali literature. They translated many literary works of our great poet Rabindranath Tagore, Qazi Nazrul Islam, and other poets and literatures. We also translated many Arabic books, Arabic literary books. So the topic of this session, Arabic and Bengali literature, aspect of interaction in modern times, is very important. I hope we will have the most productive day of interesting discussions, and I sincerely wish that this webinar will be a great success, not only as a chance to share knowledge and experience in higher research, but also as the fruitful cooperation among scholars and researchers. Lastly, I am very much grateful to the organizers of this webinar especially to Professor Dr. M. Isharat Ali Mullah for inviting me to preside over this session. And I pray to Almighty Allah, may Almighty protect us from this pandemic. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you very much.
Please unmute your audio. Professor Qadri, unmute your device.
Now I'm
It's
audible.
now okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. Thank you very much, Professor Muhammad Nizamuddin, for your beautiful lecture. And now I will request Dr. Mujtaba Jamal. Dr. Mujtaba Jamal to introduce the principal of Kaliachak College, Dr. Nazibur Rahman. So, Dr. Mujtaba Jamal, please go ahead.
Very good afternoon to all of you. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam.
It is the great pleasure for me to introduce our beloved principal, Dr. Najibur Rahman, principal of Kaliachak College. Professor Dr. Najibur Rahman, principal of Kaliachak College, passed through a phase of 2.5 decades of successful and praiseworthy experience of teaching and administrative endeavors in higher educational institutions in Assam and West Bengal.
ডিভাইসটা আনমিউট করো, আমি তোমার দেখতে পাচ্ছি না।
Besides,
তুমি আনমিউট করে রাখবে।
Besides, he has authored poetry collection, social themes, and on translation work from English to Bengali. He participated a number of conferences in many states of the nation and also in Thailand and Bangladesh. He reads 6 languages, speaks in 4 tongues. He also is recipient of 6 international level institutions of repute. Mr. Principal has also earned the reputation as social activist for his philanthropic activities to serve the humanity at large. Thank you very much.
Welcome, Professor Dr. Najibur Rahman. Please call upon Dr. Al Qadri. Please call upon principal.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. Mujtaba Jamal. And now I will humbly request Dr. Najibur Rahman, Principal, Kaliachak College, to deliver his valuable lecture or valuable deliberation. Sir, Dr. Najibur Rahman, please start.
Professor Najibur Rahman, please unmute your device.
Professor Najibur Rahman, you are requested to unmute your device. Can you hear me, sir? You are not audible still.
Please raise your hand, Professor Najibur Rahman. Please raise your hand. Professor Najibur Rahman, please raise your hand. We can help you.
Is there any connectivity problem?
Maybe. Professor Najibur Rahman. Okay, we can go forward. We can go forward.
Okay.
Later we can have universal. Please go forward.
Okay.
Professor Qadri.
We will invite Professor Najibur Rahman later on, and we are going forward. Now I request Mr. Anwarul Islam to introduce Coordinator IQAC Kaliachak College, Dr. Shubroto Kumar Dash. Please, Anwarul Islam, Mr. Anwarul Islam, you introduce Dr. Shubroto Kumar Dash, IQAC Coordinator, Kaliachak College.
Yes,
Mr. Anwar Islam.
I Anwarul Islam. I introduce
Unmute your device, please.
Subroto Kumar Das. Subroto Kumar.
Unmute your device, please. Mr. Anwarul Islam. Your device is not, but your device is muted. Please unmute. Mr. Anwarul Islam. Our member, Mr. Ataullah Ghazi, please help him. Mr. Ataullah Ghazi, our member, please help him.
Anwarullah. Yes.
Yes, he is unmuted now.
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Anwar Islam, please go ahead.
Anwarul Islam.
Yeah.
Please go ahead.
I introduce Subroto Kumar Das.
Yeah, Mr. Subrata.
Subroto Kumar Das. Subroto Kumar Das, Associate Professor in Economics, Kaliachak College. He completed his master's from the University of North Bengal and awarded gold medal and Mukut Muni award for his excellence. In the study of economics, he has specialization in econometrics and resource economics. He has more than 20 years of teaching experience along with 4 years of working in the beneficiary assessment project of World Bank. He managed many crucial responsibility in the apex management body, including the coordinator of the internal quality assurance cell, IQSC, and efficiently leads the college to the assessment of third cycle after successful completion of 2 source successive cycles. Thank you, Subrut.
Thank you very much, Mr. Anwarul Islam. Can you hear me? Shall I proceed, sir? Now, I will request Dr. Subrat Kumar Das, Coordinator IQAC Kaliachak College, to deliver his valuable speech. Dr. Subrat Kumar Das. Can you hear me, sir? Dr. Subrat? Am I audible to you? I think there is problem of connectivity from Malda itself. Are you able to connect Dr. Subrat Kumar Das? क्या हो रहा है? ठीक है ना?
Professor Subrat Kumar Das, you are unmuted, sir, please, sir. Okay.
Please unmute your device. Dr. Das. Please unmute your device. Dr. Subrat Kumar Das, are you connected with us? We can't hear you.
Professor Subrat Kumar Das, you are unmuted, sir. Please deliver your speech, sir.
Professor Ataullah, can you call him? Can you call Professor Das?
He's unmuted. He's already unmuted.
Acha, but we can't hear him. He is not audible to us. Is he speaking? सिर्फ अपनी को देख पा रहे हैं। ऐसे। I'll ask a permission from the director to move, or we will proceed for other speaker. Dr. Subrata is not audible. There's connectivity problem. Coordinators, director, sir. Can we proceed? Okay. I want to proceed now, and if we can connect with Dr. Subrata, he will speak later on. Now I will request Mr. Aminul Islam to introduce our director, Dr. Professor Muhammad Isharat Mullah. Mr. Aminul Islam.
Yes. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Distinguished guests, prominent scholars, and honorable audience. A very good afternoon to all of you. It gives me tremendous contentment to introduce the director of this 7-day-long virtual international seminar on the occasion of World Arabic Language Day. Professor Dr. M. Isharat Ali Mullah is a renowned personality in the field of Arabic language and literature, among the most esteemed personalities who have won accolades in their respective fields. I consider myself blessed to be his student. He basically a graduate from the reputed Islamic institution Darul Uloom Deoband. He has completed master's degree in Arabic and also library and information science from the Aligarh Muslim University. He did his MPhil and PhD degree from Aligarh Muslim University. He has been teaching more than 25 years as a professor in Arabic at the University of Calcutta. A good number of PhD scholars were awarded under his supervision. He also served as a head of the Department of Arabic and Persian Studies in the University of Calcutta. He served voluntarily a number of reputed organizations and institutions such as Asiatic Society of Bengal, West Bengal Council of Higher Secondary Education, West Bengal School Service Commission, West Bengal Madrasa Education Board, West Bengal College Service Commission, Iran Society, West Bengal Urdu Academy, Maulana Abul Kalam Azad Institute of Asian Studies, etc. Now he is patron-in-chief of Calcutta University Arabic Alumni Association from its birth day. He holds a dynamic leadership in the Senate, syndicate, and executive bodies as a revered member of different institutions and universities in national and international repute in India and abroad. He visited a good number of foreign countries like the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Jordan, Bangladesh, etc. He has published a number of research works in the multifaceted disciplines of Arabic and Islamic studies. He has excellent communication skill in multi-languages such as Arabic, English, Bengali, and Urdu. I would like to invite once again Professor Dr. M. Isharat Ali Mullah to deliver his valuable lecture. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now I will request our director of the seminar and chief patron of COSA, or that this Calcutta University Arabic Alumni Association, Professor Muhammad Isharat Ali Mullah. Sir, please deliver your valuable lecture We are waiting for your deliberation. Professor Isharat Mullah. Professor Isharat Mullah. We are waiting for your lecture, but rather eagerly waiting. We have net problem today.
Maybe some connectivity problem.
Yes, yes. Just wait for a while. He will be joining.
Sir, can you hear me?
I'm calling him.
No. Probably, is there any connectivity problem?
I think so.
No, okay.
I think we should not be wasting the time.
No.
Rather, the program should
We can
progress.
go ahead.
No. You are requested to go.
जी आपका टर्न है, आपका टर्न, आप जरा बोलिए जी। वो अच्छा,
Sir, you are not audible.
Sir, you are muted, sir. Please unmute yourself.
yes. Now it's okay.
Yeah, sir.
Okay.
Sir, principal of Kaliachak College has joined with us.
Yes, he has joined. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Let him speak. Dr. Najibur Rahman. Sir, Dr. Najibur Rahman, you are welcome again in this today's webinar, and please deliver your lecture.
Professor Ataullah, I unmuted him.
Professor Ataullah, please unmute him and help him. We are losing time.
Yes. Sir, please unmute yourself.
Yes. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir. You are audible.
Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum. Today, the international webinar is important for us. At the very outset, I would like to express my congratulations to Professor Isharat Mullah for taking the responsibility for organizing such an international event. From the part of Kaliachak College, I want to express my deep sense of thanks to the international speakers like Professor Nijamuddin, Professor Nadavi, Professor Kadri. All are of the modern era in the field of literature, especially in Arabic literature. The program is organized on the occasion of Arabic Language Day. It is an important event in international level as Arabic language is taught, spoken, and through Arabic language, Islam is preached, and Arabic literature is developed all over the world, and it is also a language having opportunity for the youths in international level. So such webinar is important for all of us, especially in India. Arabic language has its own importance because many students from different aspects, from different lingua franca are studying this language and trying to do research also and to make it, trying to make their career also. So Arabic, the teaching and learning of Arabic language in the institutions of higher education like different colleges and schools is one of the important part of the educational life of people. In Kaliachak College, the Arabic language is taught in honors level and general level, and students are getting opportunity learning it and through this course. And from my part, I congratulate all of you for participating this event, and I would like to welcome you all to make. Thank you all. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Principal sir. Now, this is my proud privilege to introduce, have the opportunity to introduce an erudite scholar and philosopher, Dr. Professor Muhammad Sanaullah Nadwi. He studied in Nadwatul Ulama and then he moved to Aligarh Muslim University. He did his master's and PhD over there. And he is serving as professor in the Department of Arabic, Aligarh Muslim University now. He is an erudite scholar, a philosopher. During his student life, when he was in Nadwatul Ulama, although this is a madrasa, but he studied during his madrasa period, he studied French, Latin, and some other languages, foreign languages. And in the first interview, when he came to face an interview, in his first interview, the person, Professor Akhtar, was taking his interview. On the interview table, he said कि मैंने इस लड़के को चुन लिया और उसने फलसफे का क्या खूब तर्जुमा किया है अंग्रेजी में. This was the remark of Professor Akhtar. Right from the beginning, our learned professor was very able. He worked as a visiting professor in Amir Abdul Qadir University, Constantine, Algeria in 2015. He is a recipient of President's Award in recognition of contribution towards synergy between Arab Islamic legacy and ancient Indian wisdom in 2006. He has a good number of published works in his credit in Arabic, English, and Urdu. Not only in Arabic or Islamic theme, but on comparative study. One of his book is Islam or Jadid Europe Falsafa-e Hayat, or another book is The Arab Legacy in Latin Europe. He has partly theme of international seminar. This is very important. This is very important. He has partly theme of international seminar, an international seminar held in the Alul Bayt University of Jordan in collaboration with the International League of Islamic Literature, Saudi Arabia, to discuss his contribution to Arabic literature. Our learned professor, besides many national organizations, he has membership in international organizations also, like Association of Creativity for Peace, London, UK. This is an organization. He has membership over there. Another is Peace and Friendship International Organization, Denmark. The third one is Unrestricted Writers Organization, Middle East. He has many memberships in valuable and important organizations. More than 200 articles written by him and published in different national and international journals. He has attended hundreds of national and international seminars and webinars also. Nowadays, webinars are going on in different countries of the world, of the globe. He has attended a number of foreign television programs also, like Saudi Arabian television, Russian television, Algerian television. Very good and great scholar. We are proud of him. In fact, we are proud of him. So I will request this erudite scholar, a fantastic orator and a philosopher, Professor Dr. Muhammad Sanaullah Nadwi, to deliver his keynote address. Sir Sanaullah Nadwi, sir, please go ahead.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Nahmadu nusalli ala Rasulil Karim amma ba'd. Thank you very much, Professor Al-Qadri, respected chair of the session, Professor Nizamuddin, respected principal of Kaliatchak College, Dr. Najib Ar-Rahman, Professor Das, the coordinator of internal quality assurance program, my friend Professor Isharat Ali Mullah, the chief brain behind all these initiatives, eminent professor, historian Amit De Sahab, whom I had met several times in Kolkata on different occasions, the banner, sometimes under the banner of Asiatic Society. Learned Academia all over India and abroad. My dear students, it's really an honor for me to be here with you to deliberate on the grand theme of interaction between Arabic phenomenon linguistic and cultural phenomenon in Bengal, where I'll be starting with the talk covering the undivided Bengal and how this has been seen echoed in Arabia, or the other aspect of interaction. What have been the impact of the savants, the philosophers, men of letters, poets, Sufis, spiritual philosophers from Bengal in Arab countries. I have to confine myself to approximately 15 minutes only, because at exactly at 3:13, I have to join another program in Morocco that was well planned before. So, leaving much of the avenues to Professor Day, Amit Day, for deliberations. When we speak of any linguistic and cultural interaction, it has several avenues, several dimensions there. One is related to the thought structure of the country, the legacy of thought, the legacy of wisdom, and another is the embodiment of this legacy in textual form. This textual form takes shape in poetry, in prose, in philosophical discourses, etc. But the former one, the cultural legacy, has direct contact with the geopolitical background. Hence, one has to take account of the first factor or the first dimensions while deliberating upon the other, upon the next one. So here there are several spheres that draw our attention as historians, as men of letters, as persons who are concerned with the cultural edifice of a particular country. This cultural edifice of a particular country, coupled with it, the political structure and sociological structure, is represented in so many things, like how was the event of Arabism or Islam in Bengal in terms of interaction, not in terms of pure historical narrative, because pure historical narrative might not be directly related with our deliberations on this topic. So in the interactive domain of Arabic scholars or scholars, persons associated with the Arab thought, Islamic thought, or Perso-Arab thought, in the domain of philosophy, spirituality, and theology, we must go back into history to meet some great persons. These great persons, or the galaxy of these great persons, are represented by many, many figures, outstanding figures, like Shah Jalal Tabrizi, known as Shah Jalal Mujarrad, Shah Jalaluddin Tabrizi originally, because if you just look at the spiritual atmosphere of undivided Bengal, in the proximity to Islam, he happens to be the foremost figure. So here again, given his background of Arabism and Turco-Persian and credentials or background, here we find him to be an outstanding point of reference, because during his stay as an ascetic in Bengal, he had exercised greater influences in terms of linguistic interaction with the mass people, besides the linguistic interaction academically. And of course, I'm not talking in terms of spiritual enterprise. Before him, we had another grand figure who had become part of Indian culture at the time, although he had his origins in Arabia, in a far remote area that is present today Morocco, in the city of Tanja, that is Tanger. I mean Ibn Battuta. Ibn Battuta, during the time of Muhammad ibn Tughlaq, had come to India, as it is well known. He was a minister of education during that period, and he had spent 2 months in Bengal during the reign of Fakhruddin Mubarak Shah, and he had left a valuable sojourn of his account of his sojourn in his rihla, that is Tuhfatul Nazar. Here he had gone, as it has been described by him, to meet the great ascetic, that is Shah Jalal Mujarrad, in the Sylhet area. So he gives some accounts, some very good accounts of Bengal, although it might be of historical significance and a great point of deliberation left to Professor Amit in connection to 2 terms related to Gaur or Gorbanga, that is Dozakhabad and Jannatabad. Because in some writings we find reference to these things, that maybe these writings suggest, rather claim, that Ibn Battuta has described Bengal as Dozakhabad because of the troubles over there. But or Dozakhpur. Well, this is a point that is to be deliberated historically. But here, immediately that comes to my mind is that in his rihla, that is in Arabic, we simply don't find any term that is Dozakhpur. We don't find anything like this. He gives an account of fauna and flora, the atmosphere, the troubles over there, the season, the mosquitoes, the snake bites, etc. But I didn't find exactly, myself didn't find these accounts, which might denounce or portray Bengal in some negative terms in these history books. The second most important thing is that draws our attention is the inscriptions, Arabic inscriptions. In undivided Bengal, you have a large number of Arabic inscriptions dating back to Sultanate period and Mughal period, and after that, the inscriptions in Tribeni are very well known. Tribeni inscriptions in the mosque of or the mausoleum of Zafar Khan Ghazi, or Zafar Khan Ghazi Masjid at Tribeni, which was built in 2098. There have been some studies of these inscriptions under the banner of Asiatic Society of Bengal. From the linguistic point of view, that is mingled to cross-culturalism and Sufi culture. We have the legacy of the Bauls singers of Bengal. Besides the institutions of learning that stood as the agent of introducing Arabism, Arab culture, Arabic language to the proximity of the Bengali speaking peoples. In madrasas, in a large number of madrasas, that is chiefly the Katra Masjid Madrasa of Murshidabad, the accounts of which are well recorded in history about the significance of this madrasa, the number of the students, the number of teachers, etc. And the role played by these madrasas in strengthening the culture that was deeply rooted in Arabism, but of course it has relation to the local cultures centering around Bengal and Bengalism. Here, great personalities like Mir Musharraf Hussain, the poets like Mir Musharraf Hussain, Lalon Faqir, of course, in the Bengali accent, and their contributions cannot be minimized. And in this context, we should also talk more and more about the spiritualistic, unionistic philosophy of human brotherhood that was represented by Shankaradeva. Who can forget Pandit Kobi, that is Sayyid Alawal in this regard, and his poetic collection, that is Padmavati. Who cannot mention Daulat Qadi, who happens to be a household name in the areas of Chittagong and Arakan? Who can minimize the significance of Sayyid Sultan of Bengal? And of course, who can minimize the significance of the master poet and muse, international muse, Rabindranath Tagore and Qazi Nazrul Islam? Who can minimize the significance of Rajaram Mohan Roy, chiefly in the backdrop of his monumental book, that is Tuhfatul Muwahhideen? Interestingly, here the case is that a person whose mother tongue is not Persian, he writes a book in Persian, and the introduction is in Arabic, Tuhfatul Muwahhideen. This is a brilliant example of cross-culturalism and polyglosism, that is multilinguality in terms of literature. This is one side. Another side is that what have been the initiatives of the Bengali rulers, Bengali personalities in relation to promoting the cause of Arabism, theology, Muslim learning in Arabian lands. So here, the most prominent example that comes to our mind is the Ghiyasiyya Madrasa. The Ghiyasiyya Madrasa had two branches. One is Makkah and another in Medina. It was founded by Sultan Ghiyasuddin Azam Shah, who had ruled over Bengal from 1390 to 1411. So this was really a brilliant link between, I say in inverted commas, brilliant Bengali culture, diplomacy, outreach in the lands of Arabia, in the heart of Arabism. There is one thing, one point, basic point that must not be forgotten. While we are deliberating upon the interactive domain between Bengali and Arabic in terms of language, it is well known that Bengali belongs to a different linguistic family, while Arabic belongs to another. So here, it is sort of link between Semitic and non-Semitic groups of languages. Given the non-proximity of Bengali in terms of language or linguistic geography, there is one thing that is known as linguistic geography. And linguistic geography is that For example, if it is Arabia, Persia, there is a linguistic geography that is common between them, common between the two. But that sort of dimension is not found in relation to Arabic and Bengali. So here, we can hardly find anything related to language, the domain of language or lexicon, that is Bengali lexicon that is found in Arabic. This dimension is missing, and naturally it had to miss. It cannot be found because these teams are different and there's no shared boundaries in terms of linguistic geography. So what is left is the second part. The second part is the Bengali text that is rendered into Arabic. And of course, there is a sizable segment of Bengali text in poetry, in prose, in philosophy, which has been rendered into Arabic. And here again, what comes first, rather what turns to be an institution, is the persona and works of Gurudeva Rabindranath Tagore, who constitutes the core of Tagore literature or Tagoreology in Arabic, the Tagoreology phenomenon in Arabic. Tagore has had visited Egypt, Persia, and Iraq at a time when the Middle East and Africa was passing through tough times in terms of British and French imperialism, as it is alone. He had spent time in Iran, in Baghdad, in Egypt. In Egypt, he had meetings with two very, very grand figures, philosophers, men of letters, who had played very significant role in reconstruction of Egyptian thought or Arab thought in Egypt. The first is Ali Abdul Razak, and the second is legendary Najib Mahfouz. Ali Abdul Razak and Najib Mahfouz has written a joint article about Gurudeva, and an interview was also published in one of the leading journals of Egypt at the time, and this is part of history. Here we find the impact that was exercised by Gurudeva on the Arab academia and intelligentsia of the highest order at the time. And of course, we cannot forget that poets like Jamil Sidqi Az-Zahawi, Ma'ruf Ar-Rusafi, and others have composed many, many poems. We have poetic texts in praise of Tagore. Actually, Arab intellectuals, especially in the Maghreb region, they swear by the name of Tagore, if I'm allowed to use this word. And a number of Tagore's work, I'm afraid I cannot go into further details because more or less all the works of Tagore, especially his novels, have been translated into Arabic. So Tagoreology in Arabic is a well-acclaimed phenomenon, and the circle started in 1920 with Wadi al-Bustani translating selections from the love poetry of Rabindranath Tagore as Mukhtarat min Ash'ari Rabindranath Tagore, followed by a large number of works which I have over here, but unfortunately, because of my necessity to leave the academia over here, for which I must be, I seek your pardon. Of course, I must render apology for this, for not sharing further details because of this problem. So what is clear is that in terms of linguistic proximity, we don't find anything from the Bengali quarter exercising on the Arab quarter, except some names, some phrases which has represented by Tagore and Tagore's philosophy. Tagore and his craft of words craft, it has exercised immense effect. That is, representing, being represented in the grand phenomenon, brilliant phenomenon of Tagoreology, that is Arab Tagoreology. With this, I conclude, thanking you all, the organizers, and the banner, this banner, that is, and this mission that is spearheaded by my friend, Professor Isharat, in collaboration with so many scholars and institutions on the occasion of World Arabic Day, because now Arabism is a word of phenomenon. It's a word, an Arab fraternity. The fraternity associated with the Arabic language and literature is worldwide. And we Indians do have a special relation to this. And this special relation has been strengthened in hundreds and thousands of volumes of poetry and prose and academic craftsmanship in past, and the caravan is still marching with a greater vigor and vitality in future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, Professor Sanaullah Nadwi, for your very nice deliberation, although it was in a nutshell, but it was absolutely nice and good, and on the relation of Bengal and Arab, and especially language. We don't find Bengali language influence in Arabic, but in Bengal, we have a lot of words, a lot of expressions, idioms, Arab idioms or words in Bengali language, especially words regarding law or land. All the words are actually from Arabic words at wakil, qazi, wakalat, arzi. Bangla में कहते हैं कि अर्जी दायर करा, to पेश अर्जी, or regarding land, mauza, mauza. It is used in Bengali language. And there is one notion, I don't know it is exactly right or wrong, Chartgram or Chottogram. It is said that Chottogram comes from Shatgaon. Shat means coastal area, coast, and Gaon is village. Shatgaon se this word has come, the Chottogram. Thank you very much, sir, for your beautiful deliberation. And now I will request Mr. Rafiq Anwar. I will request Mr. Rafiq Anwar to introduce our chief speaker, Professor Amit De of Calcutta University. Professor Amit De will talk on lingua cultural pluralism in South and East Asia and alternative modern trend. This is his topic. Professor Amit De, Mr. Rafiq Akhtar, please introduce.
Yes. Good afternoon to all of you. I must convey my cordial gratitude to all the audience, prominent guests and speakers. I am honored to introduce our esteemed guest of today's webinar, Professor Amit De. Dr. Amit De is a professor of history, the Department of History, Center for Advanced Studies, University of Calcutta. Is the head of the Department of History and Pageant MPhil Coordinator, University of Calcutta. He received PhD degree in history in September 1999 from the University of London for his work on the image of Prophet in Bengal Muslim piety, 1850 to 1947. His area of specialization is Islam and Islamic mysticism in medieval and modern South Asia. He published 4 books: Sufism in India, The Image of the Prophet in Bengal Muslim Piety, 1850 to 1947, Islam in South Asia, and one co-edited book, Between Tradition and Modernity, Aspects of Islam in South Asia. Professor Dey is the co-editor of the Bengali academic journal, Itikotha, and the resident editor of Indo-Iranica. He published over 50 articles on Islam and Islamic mysticism in academic journal. He delivered lectures in famous institutions such as the University of Chicago, University of California, Vishwabharati University, etc. Nearly 33 scholars have successfully completed their PhD or MPhil under his supervision. At the present, 8 scholars are carrying out their PhD or MPhil under his supervision. He served as a visiting professor in Northeastern Hill University and Vishwabharati University. We are happy to have such a great personality and scholar like him as a guest in our webinar. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Please, sir, unmute yourself.
Now I will request Professor Amit Dey to deliver his lecture. Sir, Professor Amit Dey from Calcutta University. Sir, please go ahead. Professor Amit Dey.
Please unmute your device.
Professor Amit Dey, you are requested to unmute your device. Sir.
Can you hear me?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
I'm audible, okay?
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Okay. I am particularly grateful to the Department of Arabic and Kaliatchak College for giving me this opportunity to share my views on the occasion of World Arabic Day. I am particularly grateful to my long-term friend, Professor Isharat Ali Mullah, the mastermind behind a seminar of this magnitude, and also my friend, Professor Sanaullah Nadvi, who just enthralled the audience, which is illuminating speech. It's a very timely organization of a seminar of this magnitude when we have to bolster the efforts to sustain a multicultural cosmopolitan society, which is even a challenge in the 21st century. And let us see what we can derive from our tradition, from our past. So within the next 20 minutes or 25 minutes, I will be highlighting on that aspect, what we can gather from the past, what history can teach us, what is the nature of communication between the present and the past, and on the basis of that communication, whether we can contemplate a brighter future. So that is our challenge now in the 21st century. I'll be speaking mainly on the linguistic and religio-cultural pluralism with particular reference to Arabic and Bengali. Now, it is a long tradition. Let us fix a larger canvas for our deliberation. Actually, you have to understand that has been highlighted by my predecessor, Muhammad Sanaullah Nadwi, a while ago, that there was a connectivity, geocultural and also diplomatic, mercantile connectivity between South Asia and West Asia. That is very crucial. The Sufi saints who had been coming from Persia or West Asia or even Central Asia, they were multilingual. And this multilinguality is very important. This is very much important because if we have to define modernity in the South Asian context, if we have to define modernity in a context in a land where you did not witness industrial revolution or scientific revolution as such, but still India had its share of modernity, or at least anticipation of modernity, even in the medieval period, then you have to understand this multilinguality itself is a sign of modernity, because this enabled us to sustain multiculturalism or cosmopolitanism. So all the Sufis who had been coming, like Nizamuddin Aulia is an Arabic term, as you know. Wali is the singular, Aulia is the plural, is very honorific, so plural is attached with the name Nizamuddin Aulia. He was a Turk, so he knew Turki, he knew Arabic because he mastered Islamic scriptures, Quran, Hadith, Fiqh had been mastered by Nizamuddin Aulia. That's why we use the term Alim Sufi, not Sufi Alim, but Alim Sufi. A Sufi can become an Alim and then he can become a Sufi. So most of the great Sufis of South Asia were well versed in both Arabic and Persian, and they also encouraged their disciples to promote, to converse more in the vernacular or the local language. This is very much crucial. This we can say, I have just put the abstract in the Facebook, so you can see that there's an intermingling, interweavement between the classical and the local. So if the classical languages in the South Asian context, like the Sanskrit, the Arabic and the Persian, if we consider them as classical, then they had interactions, very creative, engaging, sustainable interaction with the vernacular. This has to be recorded carefully. And that's why we see the culmination of personalities like great personalities like Akbar, Darashuko, and even earlier you see Amir Khusru, and later on mentioned by Professor Sanaullah, Raja Rammohn Roy, and many others. So even Rabindranath Tagore. So these Rabindranath Tagore and others, they are the culminating point of this cultural or lingo-cultural intermingling. That is the cosmopolitanism, and we can call it modernity. Once I happened to visit the house of Goethe, the great German philosopher Goethe and poet philosopher Goethe, and I found that he had exchanges with the Persian poets, Persian writers of his time. So this is, and those letters were very carefully preserved in his library, a house-come library. That is very much important. So these sort of things that German scholars would say alternative modernity. I would be speaking about this alternative modernity, and this alternative modernity is something which was not generated in countries which experienced industrial revolution, scientific revolution, or enlightenment. This is a sort of a modernity which is shared by even countries beyond the ambit of Western world, like South Asia, like West Asia, like Central Asia. And there was an interconnectedness between this West Asia and South Asia, as already mentioned by my predecessor, Professor Muhammad Sanaullah, a while ago. So that is very much crucial. So in other words, we had a larger canvas, which we can call, I may borrow the term used by my predecessor, Professor Sanaullah, the Turco-Perso-Arabic environment. Turco-Perso-Arabic environment. And this Turco-Perso-Arabic environment was not opposed to the flourishing of local or vernacular languages. They rather enabled the vernacular languages to flourish. I have to mention that again and again because I have to say something about the development of Bengali language and its relationship with Arabic. So this is very crucial. For example, as I've just mentioned, that Nizamuddin Aulia was well versed in Arabic, Persian, and Turki, but he was also very much favorably disposed to the flourishing of local languages in South Asia. That's why he suggested, he advised his disciple, the great poet, the father of Indian Qawwali, Amir Khusru, that you should not always write in Persian. You should not confine your intellectual focus to Persian alone. You should converse more with the local people in the Purvi dialect. So ultimately, the culminating point of this advice was that Amir Khusru was actually experimenting, had been experimenting with Brajo Bhasha and Persian. And as we know, in this way, ultimately, the Urdu language will develop on the Indian soil. Of course, in those days, Urdu was not known as Urdu. That is that was known as Hindavi. So Beya brother, Aure Bhai is Brajo Bhasha. Benoshi mother, Boitre Mai is Brajo Bhasha, and the counterpart is Persian, classical Persian, as you can easily imagine. I will demonstrate from the case of Bengal as well. But what I'm trying to say is that this experimentation was going on at a larger canvas that would involve northern India as well, and sometimes southern India. But today, because of the time constraint, I will not delve deep into southern Indian context. I will mainly concentrate on upper India and particularly Bengal. This is very much important that you have to understand. So, for example, I start with the countryside. Why should I start with the countryside? Because there's a fallacy among the scholars, among the social scientists, that Islam is basically an urban religion which flourishes around the kasbah, the small town, and the masjid and the bazaar. But my argument is that that Islam can flourish with all its vitality even in the rural environment. So let us start with rural Bengal. That will give us the opportunity to challenge this hypothesis that Islam is an urban religion, and we dare to argue that Islam can flourish with all its vitality even in the Bengal countryside. It creates ripples in the Bengal countryside as well. For example, in one folk song of Bengal, just carefully follow the lines, carefully follow the words selected by the folk poet of Bengal. Jalali Jamali Khela, Khelche Boshe Malik Maula, Lukaiya Roi. Jalali Jamali Khela, Khelche Boshe Malik Maula, Lukaiya Roi. Very fantastic. And you will never have the impression that something is being artificially thrust upon the Bengali language. It is developing in a very natural, spontaneous manner. That has been described by Rabindranath Tagore, mentioned by my predecessor, Professor Sanaullah, that Rabindranath said when other words, other loves enters into another language in a very natural, spontaneous manner, that should be celebrated, that should be allowed to continue. And that is the strength of a language, of the growing language, so of the developing language. And in that case, it was Bengali language that was borrowing in a very flexible, natural, spontaneous manner from other languages as well, like Persian and Arabic, as has been mentioned by my predecessor as well. So Jalali Jamali Khala, Khelche Boshe Malik Maula, Lukaiya Lui. Carefully follow. Jalal is an Arabic term, means majesty, grandeur, glory. Jamali means divine beauty. This, of course, has Sufi connotations. I may not have the time to delve deep into that, but if there is any interaction, I'll be delighted to respond to your queries. So Jalali Jamali Khala. Jamali, that is divine beauty. Another Arabic word. Jamali, divine beauty. Jalali, majestic, or grandeur, glory. Khala, Khelche Boshe Malik. Malik is another Arabic word. Al Malik means king, means sovereign, mean one of the names of Allah. So Malik is being used. Khelche Boshe Malik Maula. So the term Malik or master is used twice in this couplet. That is Maula in terms of Maula and also in terms of Malik. It means sovereign, it means king, it means Allah, it means leader, it means master. So actually, this is the natural development of a language which is borrowing from other languages, particularly Arabic, in a very spontaneous and natural manner. And that is the invigorating aspect of this cultural borrowing, linguistic borrowing involving several languages that we notice in the development of Bengali language. So this flexibility is also an anticipation of modernity, that you are flexible enough to borrow from other lexicons, from other languages, from the neighborhood culture. So that's why Potivesh or neighborhood was not threatened in those days. Potivesh biponno chilo na. Shankar Ghosh, the great Bengali poet, uses a term biponno Potivesh to demonstrate communal frenzy or communal tension. So you have to get rid of this biponno Potivesh, that is endangered neighborhood. You have to create a neighborhood that is based on friendship and brotherhood and fraternity. So this very natural, spontaneous borrowing from each other's cultural heritage. This is a sort of modernity or anticipated modernity, you can say, which we can call alternative modernity, which is not the outcome of industrial revolution or scientific explorations, but which is very much indigenous in nature, which we can celebrate even in the 21st century. And again, you have to keep a larger canvas in mind. That is the term that I would like to discuss. That is in the madrasa educations, you have a larger canvas in the sense that you cannot only isolate Bengal for a proper understanding of the interactions, linguistic interactions involving Bengali and Arabic. You have to keep a larger canvas. The Turco-Perso-Arabic canvas, Turco-Perso-Arabic environment. For example, something had been developing, something had been occurring in the Mughal Empire, in the Safavid Empire of Iran, and as well as in the Ottoman Empire of Turkey. So you will notice that in the madrasa curriculum, madrasa education had been mentioned by my predecessor. That is, there are a subtle but healthy tension between two major terms in the madrasa curriculum, and that also influenced the development of knowledge in Bengal. For example, ulume akliya, that is rational knowledge, ulume akliya, rational knowledge, and ulume nakliya, tension between ulume akliya and ulume nakliya. Ulume nakliya means transmitted knowledge, blind imitation of something, transmitted knowledge. Now, nowadays in Bengali language, we use the term akel dat, that is a toothache. That's a sort of akel dat, otar somoy amader betha lage. Akel is an Arabic term. It's from akal. It's from akal. That is, we are developing our sense. We are developing our consciousness. That is akal. That is rational knowledge. Ulum is the plural of ilm. So it's a sort of a national knowledge. So akil hawa mane, akil dater betha buja mane, we are gathering information about rational knowledge. Ulume akliya and ulume nakliya. Porikhay, I noticed that there are many students today. Porikhay nakol kora term আছে. নকল কথাটাও Arabic. Ulume akliya, that is transmitted knowledge, blind imitation of something. And as opposed to that, we also have in madrasa education ulume akliya. So you have to understand the development of identity formation in the context of this subtle tension between rational knowledge and blind imitation of something or transmitted knowledge. This was popularized by the curriculum of Darsi Nizamiya, which had tremendous influence not only in Upper India but perhaps in Bengal, because there the scholars had been moving to and fro between Bengal and Upper India. So you have to keep a larger canvas, civilizational dimension in mind when you discuss the nature and significance of this interaction between Bengali and Arabic. You have to understand what was happening in the Mughal Empire, the Safavid Empire, as well as the Ottoman Empire. But nowadays, unfortunately, the younger scholars can explore that dimension, why ulume akliya is taking a backseat, that can be studied, and that is the way we are losing behind our Western counterparts who are just celebrating akal, and we are moving behind. We are just sacrificing, we are just marginalizing the notion of ulume akliya. We have to celebrate ulume akliya to reconquer, to retrieve our lost glory. This is very much true about the Asiatic people, South Asian in particular. Now, there are other terms which had been not only engaged in a healthy competition with local or indigenous or Totsamo terms or Sanskritic terms like guru. Guru's nearest term in the Arabic language is murshid. So there had been very significant, spontaneous, natural, non-artificial accommodation between murshid and the term guru. They had been appropriating, accommodating each other's qualities. So this sort of a lived together in a very creative manner living together in a very creative manner concept was there as you think about the interaction, creative, engaging interaction between Bengali and Arabic, because there was this interrelationship, interweavement, creative interweavement, sustainable interweavement between Murshid and the term Guru. So this sort of a very healthy development had been there so far as linguistic history is concerned, which should be chronicled by younger scholars, I would suggest. And then again, this Murshid term is very flexible and broad. If you compare the term Murshid with, Murshid is Arabic, if you compare that with a Persian term, Pir, Pe is not pronounced in Arabic, as you know. So that's why Pir is a Persian term. So Pir, the term Pir is more institutionalized. So you narrow down the term if you perhaps use the term Pir, but you just liberate the term. You broaden the term when you replace Pir with Murshid, because Murshid had spiritual connotation. It is less institutionalized because Murshid means preceptor, spiritual guide, preceptor, spiritual leader. That's why from the term Murshid in Bengali, you have Murshida Gan. So there is an intermingling, convergence of spiritual dimension as well as folk dimension, rural dimension, folk dimension. It's very natural interaction, natural convergence involving the folk and the spiritual. So this is a term, I would say, which is de-institutionalized, much broader than the institutionalized term Pir. Pir is a Persian term and Murshid is an Arabic term. So Murshidagan is very naturally incorporated in the Bengali lexicon that you have to understand. We shall have occasions to highlight some of the Murshidagans. So you have to understand this subtle tension, or healthy tension rather, as I've mentioned, between the terms like Murshid and Guru or Murshid and Pir. Actually, they were not inimical. They were very, there was no enmity between these two terms. There had been give and take in a very healthy relationship. They were in a very healthy relationship, Murshid and the term Pir. So you have to understand such tensions for a proper understanding of the identity formation of the Bengali speaking people. Otherwise, if you just overlook such aspects, this interaction, engaging and creating creative interaction between Bengali and Arabic, you will not properly, you will not be able to chronicle the history of this identity formation of the Bengali speaking people. So you also at the same time, it should give you the opportunity to study as social scientists, or at least the students of social science, to study the subtle tension between the universal and local symbols of culture and religion. I am not elaborating on that, but you can understand the significance of the term Murshid. Murshid is a local symbol. Murshid, for example, the Murshid of Bengal is not necessarily the Murshid in the Hijaz. So similarly, the Murshid in Iran is not necessarily the Murshid in Bengal. So Murshid is a local term, but like terms like Quran, Hadith, Fiqh, and also Allah, Muhammad, and also Khalifa, these are universal symbols of Islam. So there's a subtle but healthy tension between the terms local symbols and universal symbols of religion. You have to understand this encapsulated tension between the local as well as universal symbols for a proper understanding of the identity formation of a local population, to chronicle the linguistic development of a region like Bengal. That is very much crucial. I also draw your attention to this fact. For example, you see, I will just switch over to the 19th century because I have a time constraint. So you will notice that there are terms that there can be individualization of religion, and I would suggest that that is again another symbol of modernity, that you have the right to interpret religion according to your own situation. For example, when there was a subtle tension between the more institutionalized terms like Pir or Mullah, the local Sufi would gravitate more towards the term, Arabic term Majzub. Majzub means someone who is mashgul in spirituality, who is intoxicated in spirituality. My predecessor Sanaullah has mentioned about the bowls. The bowl, some experts would suggest it's a derivative from the term awliya, Arabic term awliya, that is the wali, the friends of God. So majzub are the people who think that they are intoxicated in the thought of Allah. So in this way, they would legitimize their position as opposed to institutionalized form of imagination as represented in the form of peer or in the term of mullah. So there is again a subtle tension between the terms, institutionalized terms like peer or mullah on the one hand and majzub or murshid on the other. You have to understand this identity formation process in this larger context, in this complex situation. You will find both tension, healthy tension, as well as healthy accommodation in this sort of linguistic alternatives. So this is very much important. You will notice pluralism in this perspective. That's why you will notice not only Rabindranath Tagore, there had been people who anticipated Tagore, less known, but you can carry out research on such personalities who cultivated Arabic as well as Persian on the Bengal soil, like Bhai Girish Chandra Sen, who was instructed by his guru, or rather Murshid Keshav Chandra Sen, to carry out research on Islam. And he carried out research on Islam for 40 years, and he learned Arabic and Persian after going to northern India. So he was well versed in these languages. And you know that Girish Chandra Sen is known as Bhai Girish Chandra Sen, just like in Sufi fraternity or Sufi brotherhood, he became a Bhai. And he was the first person to translate the entire Quran from Arabic into Bengali. This is very much important. This reminds us of the contribution of Shah Waliullah of Delhi, who was the first person on the Indian soil to translate the entire Quran from original Arabic into Persian, because this translation would enable the people, non-Muslims also, to read the Quran, to know about the Quran. So this was a sort of an interfaith dialogue that was being facilitated by the action of Shah Waliullah or the likes of Bhai Girish Chandra Sen. I would also call it alternative modernity, because they were unleashing forces which will sustain and facilitate such interfaith dialogue, which is very crucial in this 21st century context, as you can imagine. So, and also you will find terms, Arabic terms, being used by the Bauls and the Sufis, like Nur Muhammad. Nur Muhammad term was made significant, popularized by the Bauls and other folk singers in Bengal. This is an Arabic term, Nur Muhammad. I will not go into that, but during the interactions, I will be delighted to respond to such queries, and I can show you how the concept of Nur Muhammad under a particular context, when there was religious competition involving the Christian missionaries and indigenous religious practices like Islam, Hinduism and Brahmoism and other religions, Nur Muhammad concept assumed a particular dimension that was a legitimizing process so far as local population in the Bengal countryside was concerned. But this was again not unique in Bengal. This was also happening in Upper India. Muhammad Sanaullah would know that this was happening. This was being popularized by the Barelvi ulama of Upper India. This concept of Nur Muhammad was brought into play to counter theoretically some of the theological perspectives of Christianity, which was throwing aspersions on South Asian religion and culture. So it is very much entangled with the identity formation process of the local population, Bengalis in particular. So I am giving you another example. This is probably from a Maij Bhandari song. Maij Bhandari songs are popular in Chittagong, now in Bangladesh. Shuder takaয় korle tumi ottalika dhon. Look at the first sentence. Shuder takaয়, this is singable. Shuder takaয় korle tumi ottalika dhon. This line is particularly free from Arabic or Persian terms, but look at just switch over to the next line. You will notice that সুদের টাকায় করলে তুমি অট্টালিকা ধন. There are তৎসম শব্দ in this line. সুদের টাকায় হজ করিলে, হজ is an Arabic term. আল্লাহ রসুল Arabic terms. সুদের টাকায় হজ করিলে আল্লাহ রসুল রাজি নাই. রসুল Arabic term, Allah Arabic term, রাজি another Arabic term. Razi means satisfied. So you see a very natural cohabitation between Arabic and Bengali in this context. সুদের টাকায় করলে তুমি অট্টালিকা ধন, সুদের টাকায় হজ করিলে আল্লাহ রসুল রাজি নাই. It is self-explanatory. Those who follow Bengali would understand that. I will not elaborate or extrapolate on that, but you understand this is a continuation of akhlaq literature, ethical literature in the Bengali context. And in that case, the Bengali folk poet had no problem in borrowing some Arabic loves or Arabic words, and this was borrowed so naturally, so spontaneously, that there is no superficiality in such borrowing. As you can see, it contributed to the invigoration of the Bengali language. And again, I wind up by highlighting one aspect, one Jari song. I cannot resist the temptation of highlighting this Jari song. Jari is actually a Persian term. Zaridan, Z is not pronounced in Bengali. That's why Zari has become Jari in the Bengali context. Another folk song. Here you will find many Arabic terms like zakat. You know what is zakat, and intermingling of Bengali, Persian, and Arabic terms. What a natural cohabitation of Perso-Arabic and Bengali in that folk context. So I would suggest that in the 18th century, we definitively notice the degeneration and decline of the Mughal Empire, which was one of the major patrons of the Perso-Arabic, Turco-Perso-Arabic environment. But after the decline of the empire, there had been agencies who tried to, in a very natural, non-artificial manner, try to sustain this Perso-Arabic and Bengali tradition, that is the folk agency, the Sufi or esoteric agency, which tried to sustain this larger Arabo-Perso, Turkey and Bengali environment, this broader cosmopolitan globalized environment, if you may use the term. So they popularized such terms like zakat, like Kulsumer Mezbani. Mezbani, Z cannot be pronounced in Bengali, that's why Mezbani has become Mezbani, that is hospitality. That is a Persian term. So cohabitation of Persian, Arabic, and Bengali terms, that you will notice. Not only that, I will not just share the story with you, but I will share some of the terms used in that very famous Jari song, Kulsumer Mejubani. But if you are interested, I can tell you the story available in this song. There is a clash between Ashraf and Ajlaf. These are Arabic terms. So Zilf is an Arabic term from that Ajlaf, and Ashraf is also from Sharif. That's an Arabic term as well, means noble, means aristocratic, and Ajlaf means riff-raff people, as you can understand. So these sort of terms are incorporated in a very natural, spontaneous manner, even in the folk song. So Islam could create ripples. Islamic folk tradition could create ripples even in the Bengal countryside. And in that context, Bengal countryside was not acting as a periphery or as a margin or as a frontier of religion, but as the epicenter of Islamic existence, of the epicenter of identity formation process of the Bengali speaking people, who had been very naturally and vigorously borrowing from other languages like Persian and Arabic. So here you will also find terms. You see the cohabitation of Tatsamo Shabdo, Sanskrit as well as Arabic. For example, Fatima, the beloved daughter of the Prophet, who is venerated by the Sufis, he is venerated in the Bengal countryside as Ma Barkat. Ma is the indigenous term and Barkat is the Arabic term. It means the auspicious mother. You see the empowerment of a female image in the Bengal countryside. And this Telesmati, another Arabic term, supernatural power of Fatima, is also portrayed as Fokiri Totto. Fokir is Arabic and Totto is Sanskrit. So see the cohabitation, very natural cohabitation of Arabic and Bengali. Fokiri, that is Arabic, and Totto is Sanskritic. So in this way, you will find that there was a very natural, creative, engaging, sustainable interaction between Arabic and Bengali, even in the countryside, and that is orally transmitted. For example, this is the mechanism that was developed in the Bengal countryside. Non-literate people, literacy rate was very low in the Bengal countryside. So people transmitted knowledge, folk knowledge, traditional learning in the form of oral transmission. That was transmitted through folk songs, the Baul songs, the Jari songs, the Maijbhandari songs, as I have mentioned. So this is very much important. We notice in this case that there is not only linguistic intermingling, there's a crucial experimentation with the identity formation process where people try to individualize religion. That you will notice in Gaur Kishore Ghosh's Prem Nei, you will find many Arabic terms being used by the major character Sofikul Islam in Prem Nei, how he was individualizing his existence within the community. So this individualization you will notice also in Muhammad Iqbal. that Professor Sanaullah would know better than me. So this individualization flourished, and this individualization of religion is of course a modern tendency. It's an element of modernity, and this they tried, these folk singers, very fertile imagination of the folk singers, tried to mitigate the struggle or the impact of the struggle between the Ashraf and the Ajlaf, between the aristocrats and the have-nots. And in popular imagination, Bibi Barkat or Ma Barkat or Fatima, the leader of the have-nots, emerged victorious. In this way, the have-nots also had their say. They demonstrated their presence in the Bengal countryside, in the Bengali culture, and in Bengali folk linguistic experimentation, in the colloquial dialects. The listeners, the audience had been gracious enough to listen to me for such a long time. I thank you all very much. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your absolutely enlightening deliberation. Absolutely enlightening deliberation, and you have raised many good points. Thank you very much for this, because this is between Arabic and Persian and Bengali interactive domain between these. I will add some words or some titles. We use a title Lashkar or Noskor. Lashkar is army. Those people who worked in army of Mughal army, they were called Lashkar. Another title is Khashnobis. Khashnobis is a Persian term. Khushnavis, that means calligrapher. In those days, there were no typing system or computer or typewriter. People used to write in hand. So they were Khushnavis. From Khushnavis, we are calling them now in these days Khashnovish. Another title is Talukdar. Talukdar, Zamindar. There was a term Zamindar, and another term was Talukdar. Talukdar is another term which has come from Persian, and there is some words when we fight with each other, we scold each other, or amra galagali kori jokhon, we say shaitan. Shaitan is a word, Arabic word. Another word is haramjada. Haram is Arabic word, zada is Farsi word. সেখান থেকে শব্দ আসলো হারামজাদা। যখন আমরা রেগে যাই, we are in anger, we are using Arabic Persian words, but most of us don't know that we are using Arabic or Persian words. So these words are there that we are using. And as I told earlier regarding land, mauza, and other words, and law, regarding law, all the words, because this law system actually introduced by Mughals, and they introduced their words. Wakil is from Arabic word, wakalat nama, arzi nama, all these. Qazi is Arabic word. So we use this. And now, as we are running short of time, I will invite only 2 questions from audience, from viewer listeners. Please, you can ask only 2 questions to our learned professor, Amit De. Anyone can raise question. He will reply you. Anyone can raise question. Only 2 questions. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible, yeah.
Yes. No question. Okay. No question. Okay, thank you very much. Now I will invite Dr. Mujtaba Jamal for vote of thanks. Dr. Mujtaba Jamal. जी, press. अच्छा, हाँ, word of thanks के दिबिन.
Sir,
जी.
yes, Dr. Nijamuddin.
जी जी. Achha, okay, okay. Yes, Professor Nizamuddin, please come forward for presidential remark. I'm requesting Professor Nizamuddin for presidential remark.
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyid al-Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Honorable scholars, guests, teachers, researchers, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good afternoon again, honorable audience. We are at the end of this academic session. The main theme of this day was Arabic and Bengali literature, aspects of interaction in modern times. By listening to the excellent presentations and discussions, I am sure we have gained a deeper understanding and essential knowledge on the topic. I would like to recap the main points of speakers. Firstly, Honorable Professor Dr. Najibur Rahman, Principal of Kaliatchak College. He thanked all of the contributors, participants, and he mentioned the importance of Arabic language in global and Indian perspective. He also presented importance of this webinar, and he also welcomed all participants. And Dr. Sanaullah Nadvi, Professor of Arabic, Aligarh Muslim University, he mentioned the multidimensional aspects of linguistic interactions. He emphasized on the importance of geopolitical, cultural, religious, and social phenomenon for linguistic interaction. He presented some examples of interaction between Arabic and Bengali. He also mentioned the influence of Arabic on undivided Bengal and Arakan's language, and the influence of Bengali, especially influence of terrorism on Arab world. And Honorable Professor Dr. Amit De, he was the keynote speaker. He mentioned the existence of geocultural connectivity between India, Arab, and Persia. He also noted the multilingual impact on the modernity. He presented some examples of linguistic pluralism and presented how the Bengali language is influenced by Arabic and vice versa. Honorable audience, I would like to take this moment to thank all our speakers, especially the paper presenter, Professor Dr. Amit De, and Chief Discussant, Professor Dr. Sanaullah Nadvi, and discussant, Professor Dr. Najibur Rahman, Principal Kaliatchak College. And lastly, I would like to offer the special word of gratitude to organizers of this seminar, the Department of Arabic, Kaliatchak College of Malda, and the Calcutta University Arabic Students and Alumni Association, and its patron-in-chief, Professor Dr. M. Isharat Ali Mullah. Finally, I would like to thank you all webinar participants and to everyone involved in planning and holding these events. Honorable audience, lastly, we are truly grateful to Almighty Allah for His special grace to hold this webinar. Thank you all, thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. So now I will request Dr. Mujtaba Jamal for word of thanks. Dr. Mujtaba Jamal.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Honorable Professor Muhammad Nijamuddin, respected Professor Muhammad Sanaullah An-Nadawi, respected Professor Amit De, respected Professor Isharat Ali Mullah, and all dignitaries. Ladies and gentlemen, our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Man la yashkurin nasa lam yashkurillah." It means he who does not thank people did not thank Allah. It is my privilege to offer vote of thanks on this occasion. On behalf of me and entire fraternity of our institute, Kaliachak College and Kausa. First of all, my sincere thanks to Almighty Allah for making this international webinar a great success. By His blessing and grace, we are able to make the event what it was. Ladies and gentlemen, I have the honor to express our thanks to Professor Muhammad Nijamuddin, Professor Muhammad Sanaullah Nadavi, Professor Amit De, who spent their busiest time for gracing the occasion. Sir, today we had the opportunity to hear your thoughts, and this is definitely encouraging us in our future event. Sir, your thoughts have enlightened our minds and shown us a new path. A special thanks to Professor Muhammad Isharat Ali Mullah, Patron-in-Chief of Kausa and Director of this international webinar, and Dr. Najibur Rahman, Principal of Kaliachak College, being the catalyst that inspired us to do our best and stand as a pillar of power. Ladies and gentlemen, I must mention our deep sense of thanks to all participants and audiences for their active participation in this webinar. Ladies and gentlemen, this type of program cannot happen overnight. The wheels start moving about 1 month ago. It requires planning and bird's eye for details. We have been fortunate by a team of a very active and dedicated staffs of our organization who are well versed in their jobs. Ladies and gentlemen, I may like to express our sincere thanks to Professor Ataullah Ghazi, Coordinator, Associate Coordinators, especially Dr. Syed Shah Sir, Al-Qadri Sir, Anwarul Islam, Muhammad Munsif Ali Rezvi, Ataullah Ghazi, Mr. Muhammad Abdul Wahab, Mr. Aminul Islam, Mr. Rafiq Akhtar, Dr. Ruhul Amin, and Muhammad Yusuf. Once again, thank you very much all for adoring the occasion and sharing your opinions. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam. Thank you. And we will meet tomorrow again at the same time. Link is given, same link. And I request all the participants to participate tomorrow again so that we can conclude our program successfully. So see you tomorrow at the same time. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Okay, thank you all. We will meet tomorrow, inshallah, at the same time. Mr. Rafiq Akhtar, you are host now, so please end the meeting.
Kian Haji, people ask me, particularly.
Mr. Rafiq Akhtar, are you hearing me? Mr. Rafiq Akhtar?
As I am trying this. Yes.
Yes, you are host. So please end the meeting.